Most people believe the system traps them with force. It doesn't. There are no chains, no guards, no locked doors. The system traps people with something far more effective: comfort, permission, and a story that sounds just logical enough to accept without questioning. That's why the system doesn't collapse. People simply stay inside it. And that raises a dangerous question. If the system is so unfair, so draining, so obviously broken, why do some people escape it while most stay stuck their entire lives? Because if intelligence were the answer, more people would be free. If hard work were the answer, the world wouldn't look like this. So clearly, the difference isn't effort. It's not motivation. It's not even opportunity. It's something much quieter, much deeper, and much harder to face. Because the people who escape don't just leave the system, they abandon an identity. And most people would rather stay trapped than lose who they think they are. Let me explain. The system doesn't start by controlling what you do. It starts by controlling what you believe is possible. From a young age, you're taught invisible rules. What's realistic, what's responsible, what's risky, what's acceptable. And those rules don't feel like restrictions, they feel like wisdom. You're told to be patient, to be humble, to wait your turn, to trust the process. And if it doesn't work, you're told to try harder, be more disciplined, improve your attitude. Notice how the blame always lands in the same place, on you, never on the structure you're operating inside. That's the first layer of the system. Internalized responsibility for external limitations. It keeps you busy. It keeps you self-critical. And most importantly, it keeps you from questioning the game itself, because as long as you believe failure is personal, you never question the environment. That's why the system doesn't need to threaten you. It needs you to blame yourself, and most people do it eagerly. They say things like, I just need to get better. I need to be more consistent. I need to fix myself. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You can optimize yourself forever inside a bad system and still lose. Escapers understand this early, not intellectually, viscerally. They hit a moment where effort stops producing proportional results, where discipline stops paying off, where the promise quietly breaks. And instead of trying harder, they do something most people never do. They pause, and they ask the forbidden question, why isn't this working? Not, what's wrong with me? But, what am I actually participating in? That question alone separates almost everyone. Because once you ask it honestly, you start seeing patterns you were never supposed to notice. You notice how busyness is rewarded more than results, how obedience is praised more than initiative, how stability is valued more than freedom, how potential is celebrated, but execution is quietly discouraged. Because execution threatens the structure. And the system doesn't hate ambitious people, it hates independent ones. Ambition that still follows rules is safe. Independence is not. That's why so many people are encouraged to dream, but discouraged from acting outside approved paths. Dreams don't disrupt anything. Action does. This is where most people stop. They feel the discomfort, but instead of following it, they numb it. They scroll, they consume, they distract themselves. Because awareness without action creates tension. And tension is uncomfortable, so the system offers relief, entertainment, validation, community, identity. It gives you labels: hard worker, good person, responsible adult. And those labels feel good. They give you something to protect, which is exactly the point, because once you identify as the responsible one, you hesitate to take irresponsible risks. Once you see yourself as a good person, you avoid actions that might be judged harshly. Once you define yourself as humble, you downplay your own ambition. Escapers see this trap, others live inside it. And here's the key difference. Most people want to escape the system without losing the benefits of being inside it. They want freedom without uncertainty, independence without judgment, results without responsibility. That's not how it works. Escaping the system doesn't start with money. It starts with discomfort, the discomfort of not fitting in anymore, the discomfort of being misunderstood, the discomfort of not being able to explain your choices in simple terms. That's why escape feels lonely at first, because your old environment no longer reflects you back. You stop getting encouragement, you stop getting reassurance, you stop getting permission. And that silence scares people more than failure ever could. So they retreat, they say things like, I'll do it later, when I'm ready, once things settle down. But readiness is another illusion the system sells because readiness never arrives. Confidence doesn't come before action. Clarity doesn't come before movement. Momentum creates both. Escapers don't wait until they feel prepared. They act while uncertain. They move while doubting. They build while confused. And that confuses everyone watching them because it breaks the script. The system trains people to believe action should follow certainty. Escapers reverse it. They let certainty follow action. That alone creates separation. But here's where it gets deeper. The system doesn't just shape behavior, it shapes identity. It teaches people to define themselves by roles, job titles, social positions, external validation. And once identity is tied to those things, leaving feels like death. Not metaphorically, psychologically, because humans will protect identity even at the cost of happiness, even at the cost of growth, even at the cost of truth. That's why people defend systems that hurt them, because attacking the system feels like attacking themselves. Escapers break this link. They stop asking, who am I supposed to be, and start asking, what do I actually want to build? That shift is subtle, but it's lethal to the loop. Because once identity becomes flexible, behavior changes automatically. You stop needing motivation. You stop needing permission. You stop needing reassurance. You act based on alignment, not approval. And the system has no defense against that. Because it was never designed to stop people who don't need validation. It was designed to manage people who do. That's why the system is obsessed with attention. Why it monetizes distraction. Why it feeds outrage, comparison, and anxiety. Because attention keeps you reactive. And reactive people don't build leverage. They react to trends, to news, to opinions. Escapers do the opposite. They reduce inputs, they simplify, they create silence. And in that silence, they start thinking clearly for the first time. They notice something most people miss. Effort isn't the problem, direction is. You can push endlessly in the wrong direction and call it discipline. Escapers stop asking how to push harder. They ask where to apply force. They understand leverage, time leverage, skill leverage, system leverage, distribution leverage. They stop trading hours for approval and start building assets that compound quietly. Not because they're special, but because they stop playing games that don't compound. The system trains people to chase linear rewards, work more, get slightly more. Escapers look for exponential outcomes. One decision that pays repeatedly. One system that runs while they sleep. One skill that multiplies across contexts. That's why escape looks sudden from the outside. People say things like, they got lucky. It happened overnight. It didn't. You just weren't watching the invisible phase. The phase where no one claps. The phase where results lag behind effort. The phase where doubt is constant and feedback is non-existent. Most people quit there, not because they can't do it, but because they're still addicted to recognition. Escapers give that up early. They build in private, they learn in silence, they fail quietly. And that's why when momentum hits, it hits hard. The system doesn't know how to respond to people who don't seek approval. It can't reward them, it can't shame them, it can't distract them easily. So it does the only thing it can, it ignores them. Until it can't, and by then it's too late. Because escape isn't about rebellion, it's about irrelevance. You don't fight the system, you outgrow it. You stop needing what it offers, you stop needing certainty, you stop needing permission, you stop needing validation. And once you reach that point, everything changes. Your decisions speed up, your tolerance for nonsense drops, your standards rise. Not because you're better than anyone, but because you're no longer negotiating with fear. Fear is the real currency of the system. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of instability. Escapers still feel fear. They just don't let it decide. That's the final separation, not courage, agency, the ability to choose despite discomfort. And here's the part that matters most. The system doesn't stop you from escaping. It simply waits for you to choose comfort instead. And most people do, every day, in small ways. They delay, they rationalize, they explain. They convince themselves that tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow never comes. Only patterns do. Escapers break patterns. Not with motivation, but with intolerance. Intolerance for wasting time, intolerance for self-deception, intolerance for lives that look safe but feel empty. That's the moment escape begins. Not when you quit your job, not when you make money, but when you can no longer lie to yourself. And if this video is making you uncomfortable, that's a good sign, because discomfort is the signal you're close to the edge. In the next video, I'll break down the exact mental shift that turns awareness into action without burnout, hype, or fake motivation. Because seeing the system is step one, but learning how to move inside reality without being controlled by it is where real freedom starts. If you want a deeper breakdown of how people quietly build leverage and stop playing games designed to drain them, check the link in the description. And if you're still inside the loop, subscribe. Because once you start seeing this clearly, there's no going back.